a little bit if you don't mind, because it's kind of continuing. Do you mind?
As long as I can read it, the Torah is cooling every day.
Yeah, exactly. That's great stuff. So, David, you ready?
Oh, you want me to go? Which David?
You.
So once you've grown
So
accustomed...
it is with the word of Torah?
Third with the word of Torah.
Okay, so hachahi mila daraisa lo is galias ela legabe rechima.
She reveals herself only to a lover.
Yadas oraisa dahi hakima deliba aschar lisra beisakal yama.
Torah knows that one who is wise of heart and circles her gate every day.
Ma avdas. Oh, we did this already.
What,
okay, we're going to do it very quickly. Read it together with me, David. Like we'll read it at the same time. Galias anfa legabe migoy hichala.
She reveals her face to him from the palace.
Varimas le'remiza omiyada hadas la'asra v'isater ramas.
And then swiftly withdraws to her place.
Kol ina taman lo yada v'la mistakli ala ibel chudai.
None of those there knows or notices.
Uma'ai v'liba v'nashe azal abasra.
He alone does.
Ba'ada raisa eskalias v'iskasias.
And his inner being and heart and soul follow her. Thus, Torah reveals and conceals herself, approaching her with him.
Great, keep going. Tachazeh.
To arouse love with him. Come and see.
This
is the way of Torah. At first, when she begins to reveal herself to a person, she threatens him momentarily with a hint. If he perceives good, he sends him, calling him simple. Tell that simple one to come closer, so that I can talk with him. As it is written, whoever is simple, let him come closer, let him turn here. He who lacks understanding.
Keep going.
As he approaches, she begins to speak with him, and from behind a curtain,
So now the reason why I'm redoing this, I didn't realize I was redoing that much, is I want to redo the important part for what we want to do today is talk a little bit about the different levels of Torah, Pshat, Remez, Drush, Sod.
What bothers me is that why is this Darasha and not Remez? I mean, this whole thing is about hints, right? Remez is a hint.
The one thing about Pshat, Remez, Drush, Sod, especially in the Zohar, is it's a moving target. There's very little consistency when we wanted to explain the difference between Remez and Drush, right? Because it would almost be like Remez is a hint, and a drasha is something that's alluded to. What's the difference, right? It's like the words in and of themselves don't tell us the difference between them. It's actually easier if you just go with a Lurianic kind of conception of four worlds and the four levels of Torah corresponding to the four worlds. So the highest level of Torah, the Sod, would correspond to Atzilut. It's almost easier because you're just kind of like, okay, that's the distinction. When you start trying to explain it in terms of the meaning of the word, Drasha versus Remez, you start coming into these kind of unknown different distinctions. And they make the distinctions and then they go back on them. So it's not like, anyway. So, and even in Pshat, there's not always consistency of what Pshat is even. We were talking about last time we did this, that what the Gemara calls Pshat is not what the Zohar calls Pshat. You understand? So there's inconsistencies within the Zohar and even more inconsistencies within rabbinic literature overall. But the main thing we have to remember, and there might be a good reason for the inconsistency. Because it's like saying, when I'm going to put a very coarse terms. When does a girl you're seeing become your girlfriend?
She says she's your girlfriend.
In your mind, before you've even seen her, right? Or never at all, because and something in between, right? So it's so there's all of these mystical kind of mysteries about the nature of the relationship.
Yeah.
Is it what you're saying? Right? That's the pshat. Is there some secret thing going on? Remez, drush, and so. They're all allegories, hidden. They're all levels of hiddenness. So, anyway, let's go on, because I just want to. There's a point that I think was interesting, where the Zohar says, and because of this, it's very important to not discard any part of the pshat. That's the point I wanted to get to. So let's go further, because other stuff we already did. So I don't want to go it over per se, except for that point, which was new, and we were about to get there, and I wanted to review just enough to be able to get to that point. So, go, yes.
So again, the word Haggadah is basically a story. So where does that fit into the Pardes or Absolute through Asiya?
Like I said, if you learn Gemara, there's what we call Agadata, right? Which is Haggadah, which is a story that has another meaning than the actual story. It's a parable. It's a type of parable. The Rambam speculated that the Agaddah in the Gemara was actually the Maaseh Merkavah. Like he speculated that was really what we would call Sod, meaning it was a metaphysical mystery embedded in those stories. So I'm giving another example of why it's so hard to define. I mean, there's a lot of people who spend a lot of time defining all four, and then you read something else, and it doesn't fit in exactly. Anyway, let's go on.
The actual Haggadah itself is the story of the four sons, and the four sons.
But because Haggadah just means the telling. It's like a very generic word. It's like a story, or the telling.
But the four sons,
recounting.
The four sons, you have the story where you come straight down to Ben Zoma explained it to me thus, right? Okay, so Ben Zoma is one of the four who enters Pardes.
Make sure you say Zoma with an M. Right. Not with an M. It's very different.
I said Ben Zoma.
I think you said Zoma. Good. With an M.
Yeah. On Yisraeli Malifons, okay? I said Zoma.
Good.
It's the King's English.
Then Zoma, and then you walk straight into the wise, the wicked, the simple. Again, simple mention. Okay, and the one who doesn't.
So but it's four again.
So you have the four entering Pardes at that point.
Yeah. So David is making a good correlation between the four sons, the four that go into the Ben Zoma, who's one of the four that go into the Pardes, and the Kabbalists do pick up on that, and they do say they actually break down the Haggadah into the four parts. And to the four worlds, and the four sons are corresponding to the four worlds, and then in theory also the Pshat, Remez, Drush, and so. So yes, you're saying that. So Kabbalists would say maybe the Haggadah is like Agadah. I mean, it is the same root word. Question only is in terms of which part of Torah is it. A non-Kabbalist would say no, it just happens to have the same, a similar word, same meaning, but different meaning in context. Let's see. I need something like one really thick book and one regular book.
Two medium.
Yeah, that's okay. That's good.
Three.
Yeah, that's good. Because all the extra, Sorry. Okay. So let's go on because
What's the word he uses, just as a matter of interest, for simple?
He uses the term,
or the same word as fool.
Tassi, which is a fool.
Right.
Which is a little like, it's not the same word.
In his earlier translation, he uses the word fool.
Yeah, which is more appropriate. It's a good translation because Pessi means a fool. It's not simple. It's even less than simple. Yeah. Anyway,
simple is really a compliment, isn't it, in your language? I'm not saying my language.
It could be like it could be. Ishtam could mean like in business, you want somebody who doesn't play games, right? Like Yaakov started out as an Ishtam, and I don't know what happened to me. He fell in with Lavan. He became more complicated. He was originally just the Ishtam. Okay, let's go on.
Okay. Then she converses with him from behind a delicate sheet, words of riddle, and this is Haggadah.
Okay, go on.
Once he has grown accustomed to her, once she becomes accustomed to him, she reveals herself to him face to face and tells him all her hidden secrets. And all the hidden ways concealed in her heart since primordial days.
Okay.
Then he is a complete man, husband, Hatan Torah. Master of the house. For all her secrets she is revealed to him, concealing nothing. She says to him, did you see the hinting word with which I beckoned you at first? These are the secrets. This is what it is. Then he sees that one should not add to these words or diminish them. Then Peshat, just like it
this is the part I wanted you guys all to hear, so that's why we read all of this over just for this little paragraph here. One
should not add or delete even a single letter. So as has been said.
Okay, so there's the main part of it, which I'm not going to review because we already did it last time, which is this beautiful parable. But then it has to throw a bone to like the Litvaks. Like it has to give like the more that, because you have to understand there's two strains of a mystic. One is to break free from any commitment and to just be connected to the mystical. Because the very nature of commitment is routine, is fitting in, is the sameness, and the mystical experience is about individuality, is about innerness, not just being a part of being like everyone else. So there's a certain innerness that a mystic needs. On the other hand, Judaism is demanding and coaxing and asking that we have certain conformity. So after we do this beautiful inner teaching about the inner Torah, which is the lover, that the outer people don't get, meaning the Torah scholars, they're like the people walking on the street back and forth unaware of this love that's going on. Now we have to come down to earth. We have to make a little repair with the Misnagdim. We have to make shalom now, and we make peace. What is that? Now there's a shout out for keeping the Torah, taking the Torah almost like at face value. See, look how careful it's worded. It's brilliant how the Zohar does this. So the Zohar says, now they're husband and wife, right? They're intimate. Now she starts reminding him, remember when we started talking? Remember the hints I used to say to you? Meaning that each word that I told you, if you didn't pay attention, you would have never heard that I was calling you. You would have never came to talk to me. You would have never fell in love with me and known me, married me. It would be like a novel that was never written, a story that was never told, a relationship that was never had. But why did this all happen? Because every word of the Torah is perfect. Every word is exactly where it has to be. There's nothing extra. There's nothing that doesn't belong there. Right? And what do we learn from that? Don't change the Torah. You hear the brilliance of what the Zohar is doing? Mm-hmm. It's using this love story, this kind of dynamic, like non-halacha, non-conformity, like like just beautiful emotions, and now putting it right back in the bag. Like we're going to put it back into every word of Torah is accounted for. You stick to the text. You see how it's a little bit something for everyone. It's something for everyone in it. So I felt I couldn't just start with that, not just for you, but for everyone. To see the context for everyone to be reminded. We weren't here last week, so okay.
You're contrasting the came before, which would have sort of this interplay, give and take,
It's
with
all this
with a
inner
very
emotional thing, and now he's saying, but we wouldn't have had that if not about the importance of the literalness of each word, the value of each word, not understanding things as vague concepts that are there to be altered or changed based on how we feel, but a certain setness in everything, accountability for the letter, for the word. So it's kind of like brilliantly tethering this spirituality to the like, I don't want the indelible quality of each word of the Torah.
The literalness of it.
And in a sense, the literalness, meaning it's giving this big shout out for non-literal and then taking it right back into literal. And one way of putting it is that, and this is perhaps an answer to your question about, well, what's the difference between this one and that one? And I'm like struggling to really explain it. I could, but that's not. But here's the point. All of Torah is one. There are layers of Torah, but ultimately it's like it's one, and that's why I told the metaphor of when is a girl that you're saying your girlfriend. It's all part of the same relationship. One part of it is the first initial reach out, and the last part is where you're standing under the chuppah, or maybe even your kids are getting married, so to speak. But they're all part of that thing. Anyway, okay, let's continue. Tachazeh. Now this is the new part. And you'll read notes. You want to read a note for that? Is there one?
Sure,
Not for everything we read, just for the last thing, if there is a note.
Yeah, but it doesn't give more than one.
Okay, so then we don't need to read it. Let's continue that. Tachazeh.
Sorry.
36.
Just the next thing. Oh, actually,
Come and see. There's another woman.
Now let's just
This
remember.
might be a good thing on note 101 on this, on a complete man, husband of Torah.
Yeah, but I'm not going
Okay,
that
sorry.
far back.
Okay.
I only wanted to read like kind of the last
Okay.
little part that we.
He says it. He says what you said, but a little different. But
Okay.
it's the same
Okay.
substance.
Yeah.
Fine. Okay. Yeah, I didn't look at the note, so I don't. It's not like I didn't read it and then repeat it. So what he says, I'm sure, is also good, but we don't need to read it per se. Tachazeh. Imacher
If another
sikach lo.
woman he takes for him.
Gilgulim. Now, what we're talking about before is this whole section of Saba Demishpatim is really about Gilgulim. It's about reincarnation. So we're coming back to that part of it. So, Imacher sikach lo.
How great and supernal the cycles revolving in this verse. For
Gilgulim
all-
Miskagam B'Haikra Kamar
all the souls enter a
Raver
cycle,
V'Ilain Inun.
and human beings do not know the ways of the Blessed Holy One. How he scales,
The whole Chodesh Masin Ilam Gilgulim B'Lo Yad B'nei Nasher Erchai Dekutcher B'Yichu.
Thank you.
how the scales stand. How humans are judged every day. at all
Ve'echam
times.
Tikla Ve'ech Istana B'nei Nasher B'Chol
How
Yom
souls
B'Chol Yidam.
stand in judgment, both before they enter this world.
Ve'ech Nishmasin
and after
Ilam
leaving this
B'dina
world.
Allah Yasin Lahai Alma. Wow, so there's not, we all know about judgment after life, but there's also a judgment before a person is born. So, it's probably referring to a Gemara in Nida, amongst other places, that says there's a angel that's appointed over birth who actually calls out, what do we say about this person? Are they going to be rich or poor, blonde or whatever, what is he called, brunette for a guy? What's it? Whatever it is. All the details of their life that are basically going to be pre-decided for them. So there's this, even their IQ, right? And also we know, according to the Zohar, that there's often, even though we believe in free will, we're coming back, so to speak, from a prior lifetime, and that doesn't dictate who we're going to be, but it certainly has an influence on it. Okay, let's go on. And then, of course, you have the judgment of the afterlife.
Standing. How many revolutions? How many concealed actions?
Does the
Blessed Holy One perform with souls?
That's a very strange word. Oh, look who's here. I took your job, Ben. I'm very happy to give it back.
I'm happy also.
You're not getting paid for it today either. That's the self.
I do things autotelically. You know what that means?
I might still have you do your job, and we need a new chair. We need to get a. Let's make some room.
Do you want to sit here?
Dedicated.
You want to squeeze in over here where you're?
I think it's more important.
Right here.
We just want to say that David felt guilty about potentially taking your place. So just no.
I'm not worthy. Now go sit next to Rabbi.
Okay. Let's finish this paragraph in the meantime.
Yeah, sure. I mean, they say that Aramaic is the lingua franca of the ancient world, right? It's a joke. See?
Yeah.
You know, or English is the
I got it.
Right?
Yeah.
Since we've begun to reveal now, okay, this is fascinating.
Yeah, there's some very interesting words here, right? Artalayan is a very interesting word. Pargoda, you probably recognize. I think it's a Greek word. Pargod, right?
What is it?
So so Ruchin Artalayan means naked spirits. Why don't you read that line?
How many naked spirits roam that world, not entering the curtain of the king?
So the curtain of the king is that the pagoda, you know. But that word artalayan, which is these naked spirits, right? Well, what are we talking about here? V'kama almin is habach b'hu.
How overturned by them is the world, overturned by countless seal wonders. The human beings do not know or notice, and how souls whirl like a stone in the sling, as it is said. The soul of your enemies he will sling from the hollow of a sling.
So let's break down this passage into 5 core concepts. The idea of a naked soul, it's got nothing to clothe itself in, which could either mean because it doesn't have Torah and mitzvahs, or it's going to connect it soon to the case of Yibum, where the case of the Yibum is a woman whose husband dies without having any children. She can either marry or perform chalitza with the husband's brother, and the Zohar is going to suggest that it's the Torah says so that it could build the name of the brother, right? Where are we doing? But where's Ben going to sit? David, you either have to come closer or switch with him.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I'll move. What's that? Okay. So that's one thing, is this idea of the naked soul that's going to need. Now, what does a naked soul need? It needs to be brought in.
Isn't there this thing I think it's earlier in the Zohar, but it talks about that when a person dies, that they enter their garment of days, and their days, and depending on how they live their lives,
one of the garments.
is a stitch in the garment.
Yes,
right?
that's correct. So there's a lot of rabbinic literature, both in the Zohar and Kabbalah, and also in Gemara and Medrash, that talk about the garments of the soul. They also talk about this idea of the pargod, or getting in. I just gave a Gemara shir on this idea that I think it was Levi, it was Shmuel went to visit his father in Gan Eden. This is the Daf Hayomi from a couple days ago. And he notices that Levi is not inside, didn't get in. Why didn't he get in? Well, it's a midah keneged midah. It's measure for measure. When Rabbi Ephes became the head of the yeshiva, he felt he was passed over, so he was insulted. So what did he do? He didn't go in. So he disrespected Rabbi Ephes, and he stayed out. So now he has to stay out also. What does Shmuel do? Shmuel says, Shmuel finds out that he's a big shot, that they hold of him. And Gan Eden, he says, listen, if you hold of me, you got to let Levi in. He was still alive in the story. But the point of the story is this idea of getting in, what do they call it in vernacular, the pearly gates? Mm-hmm. It's the doors of the Beis Medrash. It's the curtain. There's an entrance way. And how do you get in? How do you get into this club? You have to have mitzvahs.
Practice.
So you have to have done the right things. Okay, the guy is naked. What does he get to do? It's a second concept. I don't know if I'm going chronologically, because this is towards the end, but I'm skipping ahead. Kaf hakel. We read it already. Kaf hakel, it's literally translated as the hollow of the swing. And the metaphor, I think I think the Zohar mentions it, if not it's in a note or something, is that there's two angels, and they're playing a form of paddle ball with a not a paddle, but like a hollow sling. And one, again, it's all metaphor. They're standing as far apart. One is standing on one end of the galaxy, the other one is standing at the other end of the galaxy, and they take turns slinging this soul. Mm-hmm. It's terrible. Meaning, what does that mean? There's no place for this soul, so it's busy going back and forth. There's no rest. Okay.
Now,
there's a metaphor
punishment of what was the person who was the champion of Shabbat ISV, Nathan of Gaza. He was apparently. And
by the way, it's not the worst punishment. There's worse. This is like kind of moderate, So anyway, this kaf hakela. So you've got the naked soul. You've got kaf hakela. This other concept of the world. Of all of the trouble going on in the world that we're not aware of, which again is a concept that also is in Gemara. That there's a lot of miracles that are happening, there's also a lot of potential harmful things that are happening that we're not even aware of, and we're saved from them in our lack of knowledge. But here, the Zohar isn't saying that it's a good thing that we lack the knowledge. It's actually not a good thing, because we lack the knowledge, so we're not grateful for all of the kind of wonders that are happening all around us. Okay, so then of course we have that other concept of kind of the balance of judgment, which we use the word tikla, which is a great word, which is some type of like cosmic scale, and a lot of who we are is it's like the Zohar's take on what other people have in astrology. We have it simply in the Zohar as a kind of energy system of sfirot, of where the sfirot are holding. So there could be a time where it's more chesed or more gvura, and based on the time, the soul that comes down at that time is more under the influence of that particular sphere. So if, for example, we'll say that Beit Hillel and Shammai, Hillel is chesed, Shammai is gvura. Maybe it had something to do with the time that they were born. We don't know. It's a mystery, but that's part of the mystery. Okay, let's continue. You want to read the note on that?
If a person dies without having lived virtuously, his spirit lacks a garment of good deeds and is condemned to roam.
What note is this? 105. Okay.
105. Barred from entering the divine realm. On naked spirits, see elsewhere in the Zohar.
Okay.
The image of the sling, the two angels.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. So then I guess we can go on then.
So the nakedness isn't physical nakedness, it's being not having enough good deeds.
Correct.
Not having what?
Don't these two naked?
Lack of good deeds.
Oh, good
Don't
deeds,
these two angels have names? Like one is Af, which is anger, and they have names mentioned.
They do have names.
Yeah. Aleph Pei.
Well, there's negative angels that have names of things like anger. Okay, let's hand this over to Ben.
Yeah.
Where were we up to in the reading? Since we have begun to reveal? Okay. Here, Ben, top of this page here.
Do I need to really be between you two titans?
Yeah, you deserve to be here.
You are the impossible one.
Exactly.
I feel like I'm being slingshot, you know?
Yeah. Okay, since we have begun to reveal, now is the time to reveal all that souls issue from a grand and mighty tree of that river issuing from Eden. So again, the best way I like to say it is I like to talk about a woman who wrote a book, Malila Helner Eshed, called A River, I think it's called A River Runs Through It. And one of the points, I went to hear her speak. I didn't get the book because it was like $70. And then I think Susie Kessler offered to buy it for me, and I couldn't do that to her. Although I'm trying to think, I hope she didn't buy it and I like lost the book in a day because somebody walked away. You know how it is, you put your book down and then it's just not there anymore. But the point of the book, as I heard her talk, is that every page in the Zohar, it has a line about V'nahar Yotze Me'eden, or some variation of the line of the river runs out of Eden. Oh, here it is right here, right? And every page you're going to find some variation of this. But here's what's so great about this one. It's not the only time. What's the other great metaphor? Eitz HaChaim, the tree of life. Mm-hmm. And what does it do here? It says they're pretty much the same thing. Mm-hmm. In other words, the souls come out of the river that comes out of Eden, which is what? The Eitz HaChaim, the tree of life. And then it's going to introduce the Eitz Hadas, the tree of knowledge, and say that that's for lesser souls. So that's what he says, grand and mighty tree of that river, issuing from Eden. Right? So what's great about the tree is you have this idea of the branches. What's great about the tree is that it has roots, and it has a trunk, and it has branches. What is a river? A river has a source, that's its roots. It has it has the actual river, and then it has tributaries that like continue when it goes and irrigates other fields. Those are like its branches, and then the actual fruits of the tree are like where the river nourishes the grassland and the fields near it, and things grow from it. So there's a lot of similarities there. And he's just putting it out there like it's the same, right? Is there a note on this? Not yet. Mm-hmm. But then so that's now. There's we know there's nefesh, ruach, and neshama. There's also chai and yechida, but let's just stick to two of those five, which is ruach and neshama. So what he's going to say here is the neshama comes from the nahar hayotze me'eden, or the Eitz HaChaim, the tree of life. But the ruach comes from the little tree, which is presumably the Eitz Hadas. And he's going to equate the neshama with the masculine soul and the ruach with the feminine soul. And they need to come, and one is the garment for the other. Now let's see this inside. And all ruchins, spirits, like this second level soul, issue from another small tree. Now back to neshama, soul from above, ruach, spirit from below. Joining as one, like male and female. When joining as one, they shine supernal radiance, and in the joining of the two of them, they are called ner, a fire, a lamp. Ner Hashem, the lamp of God. Like the Gemara says, it's actually a verse that the Gemara quotes, that says the two joining as one, they are called ner. It's written, neshama of a human is a lamp of God. It's a verse in Proverbs, which is quoted in the Gemara.
It's also a very interesting verse. Yes. Where it begins with the nun and it ends with the nun.
Aha. Yeah,
it's one of the 11 or so verses
that begin and end with the same letter.
Yeah, right. No, the end
with the nun.
Specifically with the nun.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So what you have here is you have this idea of ner shel nishrasan. Does anybody know why the Gemara quotes that verse as a halacha in Sachin? Why do we? We have to check the chametz in the night of the 14th.
Right.
L'or haner, because the or haner is yafa levedika. The best way to use, to see is through a candle. Now we have a flashlight, but specifically because it equates ner Hashem nishmasan. It quotes this verse in Proverbs.
Right. So and it starts off by saying the light of the 14th, not the night of the 14th.
Correct.
And the 14th is the nun, which is because it's the 14th letter.
This guy, what do you do all day?
That's what I do.
But there weren't any.
I wonder why you're sitting here.
Excuse me, but there weren't any candles then. That was later.
When is it? When?
I heard Danny Mann talk about this. Ner here means actually a lamp.
Okay,
and actually
that's
lamp.
probably why I keep translating it as a light, and he translated it as a lamp.
Yeah.
But the idea is the same. I mean, the Gemara has a whole discussion about in Shabbos. It's a very extensive discussion about what you can use for Shabbos. I say candles because that's what we do today. Right. But you're right. It's not actually about candles. It's about different different wicks and different oils, but it seemed like they had some very thick oils that were bordering on the precursors, let's say, to a candle. But the point here is that the word for ner, for a light, whether it's a lamp or a candle, is nun resh, which stands for neshama and ruach, and the light of God's light is the human soul. That's a great metaphor, and the light of the soul is what kind of searches out the body. Meaning, we know we have all of our weaknesses, but when we let the soul shine into us, we can assess ourselves more honestly and begin to improve our lives and get it together spiritually. Okay, there's a metaphor. For everyone knows the famous story of the Alter Rebbe of Chabad used to say when he would look for chametz l'or haner, he would have a whole teaching based on this verse and Mishlei, and about looking into the neshama, looks deeply into the Yetzer Hara and does inner work there. So, okay, great. So neshama and ruach are like masculine and feminine. They get married together. Neshama, ruach, male and female, illumining as one. Without one another, they do not shine. This is like an advertisement for marriage. Are not called ner. Joining as one, all is called ner. Okay. Yeah, I think we're good. Go ahead, Zev. Why don't you read 106?
The neshama, the highest level of soul, is issues through Tiferes, the Yesod, identified with the cosmic tree or tree of life, rooted in the river of Bina, who herself issues from Chachma, identified with Eden. The Ruach, the next level of the soul, issues from Shechina, identified with another small tree, corresponding with the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Just as Tiferes, who is masculine, and Shechina, who is feminine, join together, so do Neshama and Ruach. Their union is symbolized by the word Ner, whose letters are the initials of Neshama and Ruach. On the various levels of the soul above, see elsewhere.
Do the last part of it.
On the river issuing from Eden, see Genesis 2:10. A river issues from Eden to water the garden, and from there it divides and becomes 4 riverheads. The full verse in Proverbs reads, "The breath or spirit of a human is the lamp of Hashem, searching all the innermost chambers."
Great, so now we're ready for Pesach. Okay. Now, the neshama. Go ahead. Wraps herself in ruach to abide there above in the hidden place, as it is written, for ruach yatov. It doesn't literally mean envelop, but that's how he translates it, right? The Zohar translates it. In other words, the ruach will be the garment for the nafa, for the neshama before me. It is not.
Sleep here.
What do you mean?
We left out nefesh. Where is
no,
nefesh?
we left it out on purpose. Yeah, it's clearly left out. It was not a. It was not a mistake. It did because we usually talk about nefesh, ruach, and neshama. Here we're skipping the nefesh, and I guess it's interesting because what we say the panimiyat and chitzoniyat is often the inner and the outer is often like the masculine and the feminine is equated with the inner and the outer, or the or and the kli, the light and the vessel, because the feminine is the vessel receiving, the masculine is the light, the giving. But the truth is, the giver and receiver change based on what's above or below it. So, for example, the ruach compared to the nefesh is the lowest of the three. There's nefesh, ruach, and neshama. Nefesh is the lowest, ruach is the second, and neshama is the highest of the three. There's more. We're going to stick to those three. So the whole idea that ruach is like the feminine to the neshama, that's only because we're not even talking about nefesh.
Or it's because we're looking at or yosher and not or hazer.
Because we're looking at these two. We're not looking at below it or above it so much. We're just looking at within the relationship between these two. Mitzad, ruach and neshama, the ruach is more of the feminine, the neshama is more of the masculine. But there's a reason he's getting to something, right? What's the thing? He's getting to yibum. He's getting to this idea of the yavama, of the feminine, why we need the feminine to give birth to the soul that wasn't born. Why it's going to establish the dead person. In other words, how, in a weird way, according to the Zohar, when the woman does the levirate marriage, the child that she has will be her dead husband. She'll be giving. That's very Freudian. I don't know. It's weird. She'll be giving birth to her husband. Okay, whatever. I don't want to go there. Yeah. Okay. Freud must have got these crazy ideas from somewhere. Somebody had to say something.
We're in a collective conscious.
Yeah, that's for sure. Okay. Let's go on. It does not say or written is enveloped, yisatev, but rather ya'atov, envelops. Why so? Because of neshamas, of the souls that I have made. In other words, it's not is enveloped, but it envelops there above in the heart. It's a simple thing. It's just saying like the nefesh is the garment for. I'm sorry, the ruach, again the same mistake, is the garment for the neshama, and it envelops it like a garment. Why so? Because of neshamot, of souls that I have made. Because the continuation of that verse is, I think, when neshamot ani asisi, and I made souls. So you have to read the whole verse. You're saying, why does it envelop? Because of the souls that I have made. In other words, its function is to serve as a garment for the soul. Now, there's garments of the soul on all levels. We talked about that a few weeks also, about the nefesh hager. Okay. Let's continue. There, above in the hidden garden, Neshama wraps and clothes herself in Ruach, fittingly. For since only Ruach appears or serves in that place, Neshama does not come there, but rather clothes herself in that Ruach there. In other words, why is the Neshama not fully present there? Why is it just clothing itself? Because that's the place of Ruach. Neshama is above it. And when she descends into the Garden of Eden below, of this world, interesting. In other words, there's a Garden Eden like the Eden that Adam and Eve were in. You know, like when they descend to there, she clothes herself in the other Ruach that I mentioned, the one issuing, deriving from there, and all of them she dwells in this world and clothing them. Let's read the note 107. That'll explain it. If it's not clear, the note will help us make heads or tails out of it. Go ahead.
In the celestial palatial,
107.
In the celestial palatial Garden of Eden, the Ruach envelops the Neshama. As the Neshama descends to the earthly Garden of Eden, she clothes herself in that other Ruach, namely in the soul garment of a convert which issues from the Garden of Eden. See above note 87. The clause neshama does not come there apparently means does not appear there without a garment.
Oh, it's not that it can't go there; it just can't go there without the garment.
In the closing sentence, the phrase "in all of them" refers to both ruchos. The verse in Isaiah reads, "For ruach, spirit, ya'atov, would grow faint before me."
Which were translated as the ruach is the garment. And why is that? And the souls that I have made, because of the souls. The souls need. I want the souls to be able to be there. Therefore, they need the ruach to clothe, to be their clothing.
The old man understands yataf as a transitive verb, and according to a different meaning of the root tif, to wrap or envelop.
Okay. So let's continue. A spirit, page 38, a spirit leaving this world who has not grown or spread in this world undergoes rolling and finds no rest, comes revolving into the world like a stone. What is that? Like a rolling stone? In a sling, until it finds a redeemer to redeem it. Okay, so that's back to that soul that's naked, that doesn't have its clothing and doesn't have enough mitzvot. Either you need mitzvot or a child, but you can't have neither and expect to be find your place, so to speak, in the next world. And that's why this soul is going to have to be reincarnated, and that's where Yibum is going to come in.
Who's the Redeemer?
The Redeemer is the brother-in-law. Got it. Yeah. By the way, usually it doesn't work. We don't really do it today. We usually just do the chalitza. I don't know of anyone who actually did the yibum, but usually probably people don't really like their brother-in-laws. It's not like a thing.
It's like an awkward.
Hunter Biden.
Oh, did he?
No, he tried it on the son who died's widow and didn't
work. Yeah.
Is this true?
Yeah.
Well, they're looking for the evidence in the Ukraine. I don't know. It might be true. I don't know what Some people say this whole impeachment thing is just so that they don't look for evidence. It's just to stop them. Of Yibum or whatever. Something, or nothing at all. Maybe by not having to come up with anything that's even better in the world of news that we live in. It's the lowest, yeah. For some reason, I did a little rant on Facebook before about politics. And I'm like, hey, what did I do that for? I bashed Trump and Bernie in the same Torah.
Oh, well, then even-handed, right?
Even-handed, yes. I know you would be upset about Bernie. I don't know who'd be upset about Trump.
Well, nobody likes
a lot of people.
Remember, nobody likes Bernie.
No, you.
Well, Hillary said nobody likes Bernie.
Ah, okay, Hillary.
Yeah,
but she's a woman. He said she couldn't get elected. Okay, I figure whoever was lying, they should nominate them. Whether it was Warren or Bernie, whoever was the liar in that story, that's who you should nominate.
They'll all get nominated.
Because Olam HaSheker, it's a world of falseness.
Yes, yeah. Well, it's kind of like Rashomon.
That's what.
I mean, what's the truth? Yes, there's so many. There's two versions of the.
Yeah,
truth.
that's true too. They could have been in the same room and had a different conversation. Meaning they had a conversation, but what each one of them said and heard could have been very different. Yeah. I know that is a fact. that could have happened. Let's go on. Yeah, let's go away from politics. By that very vessel that he used, to which he clung with the spirit and soul. Okay, so here you have this thing. It's also in the Gemara. I think Jesus really believed this. Not to bring Jesus into this, but I will. let's bring Jesus into this because I think he has a good shot in how to understand this. Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount, because I'm an expert on that, because I don't know why, I just happen to know it by heart. No, I don't. I know. But he said in the Sermon on the Mount that they say, I don't know who the they is, that if a man either that if a man commits adultery or something, or a man leaves his wife, like that, basically you could divorce your wife. But I say that even if a man is divorced, it's like adultery to be with that woman. You know what I'm talking about. Basically,
yeah, but I'm not that good in the New Testament as you are.
But you know what I'm talking about. Like basically, it seems like Jesus is saying it's kind of adultery to be with a divorced woman, because there's something wrong with that relationship with a woman.
But there is no divorce.
That now it's been translated to mean that there is no divorce. Now, to give it a historical context, it could mean that he agrees with a sage, Beis Shammai, right? There's a machlokus between Shammai and Hillel, Rabbi Akiva, about when to get divorced. Shammai says only get divorced in matzah eres davar. You found something unconscionable like adultery, but short of that, you shouldn't get divorced. So perhaps I've read some writing in not the Catholic Church, because they don't believe in divorce, but other churches, right, who do believe in divorce still have an issue with this. So what do they do with this? So one of the things is they say, well, it's very much frowned upon. You shouldn't just get a divorce just because. There has to be a real reason. But here's what I want to say. Okay, I use Jesus. It's not like I usually like to quote the New Testament.
Get a few good lines.
Maybe
I have to erase this.
Maybe he's Korachizing and believes all Jews are high priests.
No, oh yeah, okay. In other words, if there's somebody who can't be with a divorced woman like a Cohen, so maybe we all should be. I never thought of that, but the point I wanted to bring out is that he felt that there's a certain bond between husband and wife that can't just go away. It doesn't just go away just because they're divorced. Maybe halachically the woman isn't married, but there's some spirit there of the man, the other man, the husband, the ex-husband, that the new guy is getting in the way from. That's, in a sense, what the Zohar is saying. But look, read this again.
And that also goes on later. The machloket, about the thing is that if she decides that they're going to get married again, I don't think they can get married again, right?
If a woman gets divorced, marries another man, right, and then divorces the second man, she cannot remarry the first man.
But if there's no one in between, she can.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Unless he's a Cohen.
Right.
Which is why, if you're a Cohen, think twice before you get divorced. Or just make sure you want to get divorced. Meaning, because a lot of Kohanim, a lot of guys end up getting remarried, so the Kohen has to think twice about it.
Did you just lose your Kohen status for that?
Not really. Not really.
You can give it up.
You can't give up your Kohen status. What you're talking about is that there's a lot of people that can ask a shaila, they can ask a halachic question about their Kohen status, and kind of like find a way of something that was really wrong with it that they weren't really aware of up until then. But you can't just walk away from it. You understand? Like, it's not like you literally can just give it up just because you don't want to be a Kohen anymore. A Kohen is a Kohen. But there are some halachic ways that in certain instances...
Like marrying a divorcee.
Well, meaning... It's really beyond the purvey of a Zohar class. I know somehow Jesus got in, but I don't know the halacha of how a Kohen can become a non-Kohen. I think that's just too much for a Zohar class.
You have to look into the Kohen's ancestry, right? It's not enough but the Kohen can marry the wrong person.
In other words, let's say it turns out that the Kohen's mother was with certain people before he married the Kohen's father. That could potentially passel this person from the kuna. That's where you ask a rabbi from. It's not like you're giving it up. The rabbi is finding a way out. But go back. Yeah, I already see. No, I already went to another religion. You're entitled to ask a question about a Kohen if I already went to some other book that we're not usually quoting from, so to speak. But the point I wanted to make, getting back to,
she's a Zona and the progeny is a Chalal.
if correct, if she's a Zona, then he's like a Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza, and not. Doesn't have the Cohen status for the Aliyahs and stuff like that. But the point I wanted to make is that you have this thing that the husband and wife create a bond. And here, what the Zohar is saying is that there's a certain spirit that the dead husband is still in the wife.
In relationship with her.
Yeah, a spiritual connection. A part of his soul is still in her. I mean, listen, this idea of a soulmate isn't just that when, a husband and wife are intimate, there's some chemistry. No, it's a soulmate, meaning there's some merging of souls. So that's what the Zohar is saying. So in that sense, perhaps you could go back to the sermon on the Temple Mount and saying, maybe Jesus...
It's not the Temple Mount, it's a different mount.
Oh. On the
Mount of Olives.
Yeah,
Mount of Olives. Okay.
No, it wasn't
I am
even
in
Mount of
Amoritz.
Olives. It's in the Galilee.
It's not my religion. I don't know that much
The
about
mount
it.
is in the Galilee where he
right on, walked on the water, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
I'm learning.
It's in the Catskills.
Okay, it's in the Catskills. Okay, let me go on. And it was his made spirit with spirit, and the Redeemer built it as before.
Wow.
That's
a big no.
So let's do 108 then. I think that's where we're up to. The spirit leaving this world.
The spirit leaving this world. If a man dies childless, without his spirit having grown or spread, his spirit rolls restlessly through the world until his brother redeems his spirit through performing levirate marriage, marrying the widowed wife, impregnating her, and consequently drawing that homeless spirit into the embryo.
Homeless spirit. It doesn't sound so special. Do that even to a ruach. Okay. This process
of reincarnation provides the spirit with another opportunity to fulfill itself on earth. According to the biblical custom of levirate marriage, if a married man dies childless, his brother should marry the widow and then father a child who will be considered the son of the deceased. Posthumously providing the dead man with a son prevents his name from being blotted out. In Kabbalah, levirate marriage is understood in terms of reincarnation. Not just the name, but the soul of the deceased husband is preserved, transmigrating into the embryo generated by the union of his widow and his brother. On levirate marriage, and then it gives a bunch of sources on that. Many sources.
Okay, go on. Do the last line on the page, because it goes into the next page. On the term Gilgal.
Gilgul, Hebrew Gilgal, rolling, revolving, circulation, transmigration, reincarnation. See Shalom on the mystical shape of the Godhead, and elsewhere. On vessel as a metaphor for wife. See Talmud Sanhedrin 22b, Zohar 3167a. Moshe Dayan employs the same image in Shushan Edut and Sefer Hariman.
Okay. Let's continue. Page 39. And the spirit that he left adhering to that vessel is not lost. In other words, it needs a combination of the new husband, the brother-in-law, and the existing spirit that was there already. By the way, Vince is sitting in with us. He's been here the whole time. The spirit of Vince. I mean, online, not the spirit that we're talking about here. Okay, go on.
But in a way, what is the brother-in-law contributing this, because the soul is actually coming from the deceased, right?
Yeah, well, he's going to address that. So it's two spirits coming together. The spirit that's within the woman from the first husband, and the spirit of, let's just put it this way. It's not like a man dies, his full soul just stays with his wife. No, a little part of it. And the other part goes in, and that's the part that's been wandering around. Now somebody's got to bring it back. The brother-in-law is going to bring it back and merge it with its remaining aspect that had stayed with the woman, and then it'll come into be reborn.
It also sort of makes as much sense that an aspect of the dead husband's soul is in the wife, where they have no genetic commonality, as that there's a portion of the soul in the brother where they came from the same.
So they're both
mother.
happening. Is
So
what
they
you're saying.
both
Yeah.
sort of
You
have
need them both.
different
Yeah.
elements.
Otherwise, you wouldn't need it to be the
if
brother.
you
It
make
could be
that
anybody.
argument, then he also has something.
Yeah, no, and correct, and we do
Like
make that.
mamas
You need
gave
both.
them each,
You need
yeah.
both. Meaning you need the biological sibling together with the spouse that somehow, bring back the brother. So it's not the literal biblical injunction is to have a child in the name of the brother. It'll keep the family name going. The Zohar's thing is no, it is the brother. You're giving birth to your brother. Meaning it's the soul of his brother.
Right, yes,
being
that's
born.
right.
Is there any obligation on
And the woman's first husband.
You're giving birth to a husband.
Husband, yeah. Okay.
Is there any obligation?
No wonder why some of these Jewish families are so messed up. It's like they're just confused.
Go ahead, sir.
So what would be the name of this child?
Gershon,
No,
whatever the name of the father.
No,
it would be named after the deceased. I want to say father. It's not the biological father, but the first husband.
Right.
Yeah, be named after the first husband. Yeah.
Is there any obligation of the surviving brother-in-law to marry his sister-in-law?
Yes, either that or they do a ritual known as chalitza.
I know there's
Yeah.
such a ritual, but is he pressured?
No,
that he should
not
marry?
anymore.
Okay.
Now he's pressured to do the chalitza.
But it's her decision.
Oh, to do the chalitza. Oh, it's her decision.
It is by rabbinic law, but originally it seemed like it was up to him, by biblical law. But rabbinic law, okay, and custom today is just not to do it. In most communities, I don't know if there are any surviving communities that still do it if they both want to. Maybe I don't
It
know
just
of
seems so
them.
weird to make a guy have intercourse with his sister-in-law.
Yes.
Something
But you don't make
weird
him. No, you wouldn't make him. It is very weird. That's
Just
why.
the act itself
That's why the
seems so
custom
weird.
the custom does not happen today. But listen, it was a different time in so many ways. So, for example, perhaps.
Other cultures did it too. We weren't the only ones that had the idea.
Interesting. Okay. Well, let's stick to the Zohar. Might as well not understand it in this way. The spirit that he left, adhering to the vessel, is not lost for nothing in the world, be it ever so small, lacks a place in which to be hidden and absorbed. In other words, there's always a place to hide.
Is it hide or that nothing is lost?
It is never lost.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it can't hide. You can run, but you can't hide, is what it's saying. It's never going to be lost. There's always going to be the potential, right, to come back, and this is how the soul will come back in this instant. Consequently.
It's an interesting proverb, like you'd say, oh, there's nothing
Too small to be lost.
There's nothing too small. Even the smallest thing can still hide.
Yeah.
I think it's really saying
They can't-
continues to exist, almost.
Yeah.
So,
Anyway,
the begin cast.
you have your cousin. Do you have a cousin named Maisha?
No.
Okay.
I'm just lost.
I don't know. Somebody watching named Maisha.
I do have a cousin, right?
Maisha Moskowitz is watching.
Oh, yeah.
Want to say hello?
No, that's not
Okay. It's not your cousin. Okay.
I do know the girl is from Boston.
Okay.
I don't know.
There you go. Okay, go on.
Begin kahu.
Consequently, the spirit that he left in that vessel is there. This pursues the root. and basis from which it issued. It brings it and builds it in its place, in the abode of the spirit of his mate who emerged with him, and it is built there as before. This is a new creature now in the world, a new spirit and a new body. Right? That's read those the last line again. Barry is a creature. Rucha, the guf acharata. Okay, the ruach and the guf. So basically, we'll read 109.
During his lifetime, through uniting sexually with his wife, the deceased husband had infused some of his spirit into her, and this remained in her even after he died. Now the spirit pursues its origin, the husband's wandering spirit, and brings it to his widow's womb, where it is implanted in the embryo generated by the widow and her brother-in-law. See the fragment by Nachmanides published by Shalom. The phrase "the spirit of his mate who emerged within him" refers to the idea that a human couple is predestined for one another. Their souls were originally one, then split into male and female, and entered the world in order to reunite. See Plato's Symposium.
Isn't that interesting that it's Ruach Harata and Guf Harata that leaves out Neshama, as in like it's the old Neshama, but now there's just a new Ruach and Guf? Like the Neshama is of the dead husband, but what's new is this new Ruach and Guf. Is that what maybe it means, or there's just no soul?
I guess it.
Ruach Harata and Neshama Harata.
Yeah. And let's go further. I think he may inadvertently or advertently address that question. Now you might say, this spirit is the same as it was, and this is so. But it is built only by virtue of the other spirit that he left in that vessel. Meaning, why couldn't you just have the brother marry any girl that he wanted to, had no connection to his deceased brother, but since he's the brother, he carries the spirit of his deceased brother, and he'll have a child that will have the ruach of his brother. Says, no, it has to be with the woman. Yeah, because the woman had a part of his spirit in it.
That's creative force also.
Yeah. Okay. 110, you want to read? Very quick.
Since it is built out of the deceased husband's spirit, why is it considered new? Because the old man implies it is transformed by joining with a remnant of the husband's spirit found in his wife.
That's also what makes it new, because it's two different aspects that might have been together before, but they were not together the way they came together now. Right? It's like the ultimate mixology is between parts of a soul that are reuniting. It's new, right? Even if all your parts have been here before, the way they are in you now have never been here. It's new. Okay. Anyway, let's continue. Here is a mystery of mysteries in the book of Enoch. Now, everybody knows that there's Book of Enoch 1, Book of Enoch 2, Book of Enoch 3. A lot of it was found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's not this book. The Zohar has its own Book of Enoch. Okay, actually read note 111.
The Book of Enoch, a volume of esoteric knowledge housed in the real or imaginary Zoharic library. Concerning Enoch, Genesis 5:24 states he was no more, for God took him. In post-biblical literature, this verse was taken to mean that God transported Enoch through the heavens, a journey recorded extensively in the Enoch literature. The Zohar's Book of Enoch, though influenced by this literature, is not identical with any of its particular volumes.
Right. Okay. So it's so interesting that they do have a Book of Enoch, and he says real or imagined, because the book, there is a whole body of books that are quoted in the Zohar that are found nowhere else, and we can't find them. So either they existed and their manuscripts are gone, or Some people speculate that they're just a figment of the author of the Zohar's, imagination.
Or a library in heaven.
Or yes, that for sure. Digital heavenly library for sure. But whichever way you believe, the Enoch quotes in the Zohar seem different than the book of Enoch, that the various books of Enoch that were and are even more so now available.
Could they have been just different manuscripts that differed in some sentences?
I mean, he says here in the note that they're clearly thematically connected.
Influence, but not identical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, you could look up. The only way to really know that is to be familiar with the book of Enoch, which I kind of know it's about the same as I know the New Testament.
But there is.
But
there
so I
have been
can't.
these
I'm not
really
an
good
expert
editions
at
that
it.
come out in the last few
Yeah,
years.
no, it's some great,
Yeah.
fantastic stuff. I've done it online. I was interested in it because of David got me to do this day of Kabbalah on the 4 who entered Pardes, and the keynote speaker was Rachel Elior, and her speculation of understanding that story is that that Metatron, the angel Metatron is Enoch, and he was the angel that misled Elisha ben Avuya to think that there are 2 Rishuyot Lamaila. There's two heavenly jurisdictions. There's a co-creator or something, or co-power. It's like a Star Wars movie, and there's the Force and there's the Dark Force.
That's why the angel gets whipped by God.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So Rachel Elior has a whole thing. We're talking about Rachel on that day of Kabbalah that was your idea for that particular theme. So Enoch is a huge figure in the Dead Sea Scroll manuscripts, huge, and he's like the angel who brought writing into the world and so much more. So in her estimation, to the story of the 4 who entered Pardes, was that they were basically studying the Dead Sea Scrolls. That's her spin, and in other words, they were what we call the Apocrypha, the Sfarim Chitzonim, the writings, which some of it was mystical, that continued to be written. And she explained a whole lot of very interesting things with this theory. It's fascinating. It was one of the most interesting talks I've ever heard from an academic or non-academic. What?
We should get her back sometime.
Yeah, she was great. It's also not cheap, but
No.
we get a big donation. Okay, let's go on.
We're running close.
How are we doing on time?
We're at 4 minutes.
Okay, so let's wrap it up then.
Binyana de Isbene.
This structure that is built only by that spirit that he left there in that vessel. Beginning to be built, page 40, it attracts the spirit that roams naked, drawing it. These 2 spirits that are one, afterwards this is a spirit and this is a soul, and the 2 of them are one. Does that answer your question about the nefesh, the ruach?
It's sort of like changed. No,
It's like introducing more, yeah. If he succeeds, and increasingly fittingly the 2 become one, in which will be clothed another supernal soul. Just as other inhabitants of the world have a spirit attained by these souls that were first to seize them, and another spirit from above, and a holy soul clothes itself here. So too, he himself has 2 spirits, in which a supernal soul will clothe itself. Let's read quickly note 112.
Interesting. This is the answer to the riddle about what is an eagle that sits in its nest, and 2 become 1 and 3 become.
Yeah, this is the answer of one of those questions. The 2 spirits that are one.
Right.
That's what he says. Well, read note 112. I don't know how you knew that, but I didn't know that. I just know that because I read it now.
The new spirit in the embryo is formed by the remnant of the deceased husband's spirit left in his wife, which draws the wandering spirit, joining with it as one. When the child is born, the remnant of the spirit becomes his ruach, and the formerly wandering spirit becomes his neshama. If the sun eventually
Okay, so that's the
increases-
answer to your question. So, if it works, so then the neshama, which is the wandering spirit, joins the ruach, which was the spirit in the woman that was retained in the woman. If he increases,
If the sun eventually increases by engendering new life, these two spiritual elements become a single ruach, which
was
closes
a new
the
neshama,
from above.
meaning, so even though it had a neshama and a ruach, if it becomes merged enough, it becomes ruach and then we'll receive even a higher neshama.
It's a very different human than other humans, which is like very interesting. Like I don't think anyone ever thinks, oh, you know, if you have a child that fulfills or establishes the name of their
It's a burden to carry.
Totally,
They know who you are when you're
The
born.
concept of the Neshama Yetero?
Well, the neshama Yisrael is an extra level of soul, and yes, they very much do believe in the actual neshama Yisrael that you could bring in actual neshama. So that's in the Zohar, that's in the Kitvei Ari, in the Shar HaGagulim, in the section of the Ari about Gagulim, which is based on this section, Saba Demishpatim. Yeah. Okay, we have to go.
Maybe that's
But
why we don't
we're
do
not
this.
going to meet next week because I have another event. But yeah, maybe we don't do this because we're not on the level,
Yeah, we're not
maybe.
on the level, exactly, to bring such